guys? The Bench Buddies are back, and we're doing our college football week one preview and picks. Of course, as always, I got my boy Ty here, our college football and basketball analyst. And we're going to get into it here. But before we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button, get us to 200 subscribers, as we'll be doing that autographed item giveaway to a random subscriber. But Ty, we got to go into last week. I finally am beating you after something. After all the picks, I'm beating you. But I mean, it was only 4 games, nothing really too much, and we had no clue about any of these games. So essentially, we got lucky. But at least Illinois came through for both of us there.
Yeah, Nebraska, I don't even know what to say about them anymore. I bought in this year like an idiot and they let me down. Scott Frost, typical. This time it was an onside kick up 11. It's always something. And then Hawaii, we both looked smart on that one. Picking them, they lost by 53 at home, but we'll bounce back this week.
Yeah, we'll be good. We'll be good. So for the first game, of course, we have West Virginia at Pitt. Tough game, I think, for both sides here trying to figure out themselves. But I'm going with Pitt just because I think it's at home. It's easier to get things figured out at home than it is on the road.
Yeah, this is an underrated rivalry. These teams used to be big rivals back in the Big East. But I'm going Pitt at home here. I think this will be a really close game. I'm taking probably West Virginia spread. But I think Pitt finds a way to win this at home.
And if you want to watch another game here on Thursday, I think this is the one to watch here. Obviously, our first disagreement this week. Penn State at Purdue, conference game, week one. And what better way to do it than two teams that are going at each other's necks? Two teams that, are looking to prove themselves this year. I'm going with Purdue because it is a home game and just week one, tough games, tough places to play. I feel like sometimes you have to go with the home team in these close matchups. Yeah, I know in our own rankings, we had Penn State ranked and, Purdue just on the outside, but I think that script might flip after this week.
Yeah, I think this will be a really good game. I actually think Penn State's going to be pretty good this year. I think they'll have a bounce back season. I still believe in Sean Clifford, even though he struggled last year. So I think the talent for Penn State will be enough for them to win, even on the road. Not the toughest place to play in the country in Purdue. So I think Penn State can still go in there and get the win, even on the road.
Friday, we got your Broncos going in to East Lansing to take on the Spartans. And I think that spread could be a little trip up both sides, no matter which way you're betting it there. I think this game could be closer than 22 and a half, or it could be a complete blowout. Just kind of depends on what you're feeling here, how good the state team is, and how good you think Western can put up a fight. But, we're just picking straight up picks here, and I got to go with state. It's the safe pick, obviously, but I know you were like 49-51 on Western, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if I'd go to that level, but I will say I think the over is going to hit because I do think Western's going to put up some points in this game. Their defense is horrible, though. In Michigan State, obviously, they can score as you saw last year. So can't pick my Broncos in this one. I think they'll keep it close for about a quarter and a half, and then the floodgates will open on their defense. So Michigan State should pull away.
And kicking off our Saturday slate of games, Ty, I know you'll be attending this game along with a few of my family members and friends. But what does Michigan have in store this year at the quarterback position, the run game, and especially on defense? That's going to be the biggest question heading into this game. The over under, honestly, I'm thinking I'm going the under here because I don't think Colorado State's going to put up too much. And I think Michigan, might not even cover as well, just because we do have a very talented offense, but at the same time, they've been working with two different quarterbacks. So a few guys might be better with one quarterback than they are the other. So I think that's going to be kind of figured out through the first 2 weeks of the season, and then they go from there. But obviously, I got to go with Michigan here.
I think Michigan covers the 30 and a half point spread. That is not big enough for this game. Uh, Obviously, we've already heard Michigan starting Cade McNamara week one. They're starting JJ week two. So I think that means they're going to throw the ball quite a bit. They're not just going to do a typical Jim Harbaugh run the ball every play in the first game. So I think you'll see them put up a lot of points. And then once they get up by a lot and they pull Cade, guess who goes in? Stud quarterback JJ McCarthy. So
Hmm.
I just think they'll keep scoring in the game. I think it'll get ugly. I'll say 52 to 13, Michigan wins.
In another game, underrated game as well. If you're looking for a closer game, it's going to be this one: NC State at East Carolina University. These teams have some beef, I believe, in previous years, and it's going to be a lot closer than I think people expect. I think NC State goes in there, keeps the ranking, and it's kind of scrape that one out in the trenches. I think it's going to be a one possession game heading into the fourth quarter, and it will be a good game, but NC State pulls away late.
Yeah, I'm just not super high on East Carolina this year. They haven't been good in a long time. So I think this is the type of game that might be close going into halftime, and then NC State will just the talent will kick in the second half. So I actually think NC State's going to cover. I don't think 11 and a half is enough for this game either.
And then I think the second biggest game of week one, we got Oregon in Georgia. It's technically a home game for Georgia, even though it's in Atlanta in the Dome. And Georgia has very good success there. Obviously, it's going to be a home game for them. You still have Oregon coming across the country, and I don't know if the 17 is going to be enough because Georgia's returning a lot of players. And obviously, when you're starting quarterback returning, that's obviously a good sign. And Oregon, with a lot of question marks still to be answered, you got to go with Georgia here for the straight pick.
Yeah, Georgia facing Bo Nix here in week one, a guy they're very familiar with. And I think they'll really overwhelm them in this game with their defense. Oregon, I think, is really overranked at 11. I don't think they're going to be quite what they were last year. And even last year, they were a four-loss team. So I think Georgia's really going to overwhelm them early. And I think they'll win this game about, I'll say, 28 to 6.
Also at 3:30, we have Cincinnati and Arkansas, the two bottom end ranked teams, and they're going to be fighting for which team, can go off to a fast start and potentially get in line for a better chance for a shot at the playoff. And, if you're Arkansas, you're ready for this moment, kind of going off of last year. The SEC is going to be tough. So you got to get the big games out of conference. And if you're Cincinnati, well, you need to win this game for sure because it's on the road against an SEC opponent. And that's a big time win for the little school, you could say. Not in the Power Five, but I still have Arkansas pulling this one out at home. I just kind of don't think Cincinnati has it in them. Obviously, they lost Desmond Ritter, their quarterback, and obviously Sauce Gardner as well. You lose your two best players best player on each side of the ball. It's always going to be tough to replace them.
Yeah, I'm honestly looking more forward to this game than the Oregon Georgia game. I think this will be a really good game. I could see it going either way, but I got to go with Arkansas playing at home, and they also have a returning quarterback in KJ Jefferson, and he had a really good year last year. Obviously, Cincinnati, a brand new quarterback, so completely different there. And I'm actually really high on Arkansas this year, so I think they get this win, and I think it gives them some momentum towards having a really good season.
And another game at 3:30, a lot of good games here, underrated games as well. Got Houston and UTSA, and I'm going with the Roadrunners at home pulling off the upset. I think Houston last year, going 12-2, it was a great season by all means, but if they're only favored by 4 here on the road and that over/under is expecting a lot of points, then I think this game can go either way. And why can't the Roadrunners win it at home?
Yeah, this is an underrated game. Both of these teams were 12-win teams last year, something most people wouldn't expect or know. But I think Houston is going to be able to keep this under, you know, if both teams are in the 40s or even the 30s, I think UTSA wins it. But I think Houston's defense is going to keep the score just low enough where they'll be able to come out with a win. But it's going to be a really close game.
And then at 7, I think this is a coin flip game, essentially. You got Utah going on the road, and going into the swamp is always a tough place to play, no matter how good or bad Florida is. And, you got to give Florida credit. They have one of the top quarterbacks, not just in the SEC, but in the country as well, and Anthony Richardson. But if we get a Utah team that we saw play against Ohio State last year in the Rose Bowl, then I think Utah absolutely covers that spread and some.
Yeah, I'm going with the Gators here. I got to pick one upset this week, and I really think going into the swamp is going to be a really tough task for Utah. And I think Florida has a really good coach now in Billy Napier, And, what better way to start off your coaching career at Florida than upsetting a top 10 team in your first game? So I think Florida's going to be able to shock the world here and show that they're back. And I think Utah's still going to have a really good season, but it's just tough to go into the swamp and get a win, especially in week one.
Then also 30 minutes after that one kicks off, you have Notre Dame, Ohio State. And I think this is a neutral site game. It's a completely different story here. Maybe, Notre Dame can pull one out, but I just can't see Notre Dame going into Columbus. Week one, Ohio State, a top three team in the country, a lot of returning starters, just it's just a recipe for disaster if you're Notre Dame here. Just you got them on a bad year essentially, and this is a big year for Notre Dame. Obviously, with their new head coach Marcus Freeman, and they have a lot of tough opponents on the schedule on the road as well. And we could be seeing something Notre Dame normally doesn't do: lose more than 2 games in a season, which is very rare nowadays. And I think Notre Dame could be on that path here, depending on how big of a blowout this game is.
Yeah, I think this will be a big blowout, honestly, and it's more about Ohio State than Notre Dame. I think that offense is just I think they're gonna get off to a similar start that they did against Michigan State last year. I don't think it's gonna be 56-7, but I think they're gonna hit a couple big plays in the first quarter and just really overwhelm Notre Dame. So I think Ohio State wins this, 42-20, somewhere in there. I think they just get out to a really good start and then coast to a
And then heading over to Sunday night, the last Sunday without NFL football, we got something else good. We got Florida State, LSU, and the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in Louisiana. And I think that's all you need to know for this game. It's in Louisiana. Brian Kelly's making his head coaching debut for LSU, and that's why I got to go with the Tigers here. It just seems like everything's lined up for an LSU win.
Yeah, these are two teams that have been really disappointing the last 2 years, especially Florida State. I think you got to go with LSU. Like you said, it's basically a home game, and they have the better coach in Brian Kelly. He's proved himself more than Jay Norvell for Florida State, so I'm going with LSU here. I think they'll get back on track.
And to wrap up our slate of games here, we got Clemson going on the road against Georgia Tech. And I think this is just going to be, you're going to turn it on because you're ready for NFL football to be back on Monday nights. Clemson's going to get ahead early and often, and it's going to be that way for the rest of the game. Expect a, 2, maybe 3 touchdown lead at halftime for Clemson. Expecting their offense to play well and DJ Ugalele having a bounce back year. But, stranger things have happened. We saw last year, and it was a tough game for Clemson to start out 10-3 loss against Georgia. Could something happen like that? Possibly, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah, this game won't be close. Georgia Tech is going to be really bad this year, so I think it's going to be more about them than Clemson. But I'm interested to see, is this going to be like a Clemson win last year where they win at like 20-3, or is that offense going to show that they really turned a corner? So that'll be something to watch more than the actual score because Clemson, they should win this game easily. Otherwise, they have some big problems, and I think they will.
But that's going to be it for the video today. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to be entered into that giveaway. But we're gonna be doing these weekly for until the end of the year, essentially, till college football is over, picking up the big games and previewing them as well. So make sure you guys have those notifications on for when we drop these videos. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.